So as we're on page 10, check out this graph. They're going to do this to you. They'll probably give you an F prime graph actually, but this is how we'll start out today. So here's a graph of F. Identify the extrema and that's so funny. Okay, this is exactly what we just talked about. Where's my extrema on this graph of F? We just talked about it. Would we say when X is A? What do I have here? Yeah, this is actually going to be an absolute minimum. What about at X is B? Love it. And at C? Love it. So let's just remind ourselves this vocab. Let's write this down. We're going to say, and I'm fine with just saying min at X is what and what? C and A. I'm good with saying min at X is C and A because, just like Marge said, F prime changes from to have a min. To have a min, what did my F prime go from? Perfect. Negative to positive. And then we're just going to remind ourselves, then we have a max at X is B. Because, can we just say because F prime changes signs here? We always said when F prime changes signs, that's when my position changes directions. My velocity changes directions. So here we've got to specify F prime going from positive to negative because we want the actual maximum, not just changing directions. F prime goes from, whatever you prefer to say, positive to negative. Okay, so then you guys, let's take a peek at this. This is more like AP. Here's a graph of F prime. This was F, here's F prime now. It's really important to note that. So maybe just be like, okay, we got F prime now. Identify the critical points. And maybe it's a Monday, we remind ourselves, what the heck is a critical point? Critical point is where F prime equals 0 or what F prime is undefined. That's what a critical point is. Then determine whether F has a max or a min at those values. Sorry about that. Okay, let's first find those critical points. Critical point, where is my F prime equal to 0 on this graph? At what X value? And I can zoom that in to help you guys see that. When does my F prime equal 0? Any ideas? Say it again. Agreed. He's saying right there. Where else, bud? Yep. Perfect. And you're like, wait, why isn't it at the max or the mins? Because I'm looking at an F prime graph. And so these are just the values of F prime. Positive is anything above. Negative is anything below. 0 is anything on that x-axis. Christian, perfect. Okay, so what are we going to say at -3? So we could say critical points equal x's, like Christian said, -3, 3, and 8. And then what do we have at each of those? At -3, max, min, neither, and why? Minimum, because, perfect. She said my F prime changed from negative values to positive values. That's exactly what we set up there. That's awesome, because F prime changed from, and I'm even going to go like this, negative to positive. We're Gucci with that. Boop, boop, boop. We don't have time to write negative to positive. That's a lot. What about at 3? What did my F prime values go from? What? 0 to what? Positive 0 to positive. Did it change signs? Nope. So this is going to be nothing. This is not a max or a min. This is just my critical, that my F prime equals 0 there, but it's not a max or a min. So we're going to say neither at X is 3. I'm going to write F prime didn't change signs. That's what they love about that wording. And then we got at X is 8, a max because my F prime values changed from positive to negative. Okay, so you guys, this is what we did, Curfy and Roe, on Friday, these sign charts. And so I said, hey, here's F. Where do we have a max? Justify your answer. So I kind of walked us through. It's a Monday. Let's walk ourselves through again. So we got to find those critical points where my F prime is equal to 0 or my F prime is undefined. Let's go find F prime, y'all. Shout it out, buddy. What do we got?
X squared plus
Beautiful. And then Evan's like, dang, if I got to set that equal to 0, I'd rather just use polysmelt, but she's the worst. She won't let me. We can toot this, though, people. What multiplies to be negative 48 adds to be 2. 8 and negative 6. Beast mode. What's my critical points then? Beautiful. Beautiful. You guys, critical points are where my f prime equals 0. Got him. Anytime this f prime would be undefined, do we have any denominator here that could be equal to 0? Nah. So these are our only critical points. These critical points are what we're going to put on the sign chart, you guys. We got negative 8. We got positive 6. We put those on our sign chart. And again, I like to say those are x values. I'm going to plug them into my function. My first derivative to see what my function is doing. I like to circle these so that I don't get them confused with the other values I'm about to put on this chart. What's the number that we want to try that's less than negative 8? Negative 9, negative 10. I'm going to go negative 10. I'm going to be crazy. Between negative 8 and 6? I like 0 for sure. Bigger than 6? 8, 25, 300, whatever you want to do. I'll go 8. You could go 7. You could go 6.1. Okay, you guys, we always go plug these pink values into my f prime. It's going to be way easier to do it into the factored form. So I'm going to go like this. Negative 10 is going to go there and there because all I care about is the sign, not the value. Negative 10 plus 8, positive or negative?
Negative.
Whew, negative 10 plus 8 is negative. Negative 10 minus 6. Negative times negative? Positive. If my f prime is positive, what's my function doing? Increasing. What if I throw a 0 in right here? 0 plus 8, positive 0 minus 6. We got a positive times a negative would get me what here then? Negative. If my f prime is negative, that means my function's going down, decreasing. And then if I threw an 8 in here, what times a what? Yeah. Okay. This then shows us the shape of my function. My function we know is an x cubed graph. And guess what? The shape of the function is going like this. Increasing, decreasing, increasing. That looks like a cubed graph. Where do we have, it said, where do we have a max? At what x value would we have a max? Negative 8, because Marge has said 15 times already today, a max is when my f prime goes from positive to negative. And we prove that happens right here. Love it. We're going to say max at x is negative 8 because f prime goes from positive to negative. Done. Instead of doing a whole side, we can do it. All right. You guys, guess what I gave you on this one, though? I gave you the x prime. We're looking for maxes, mins, or nothing. You guys, a max or a min is going to happen at those critical points. Where does my f prime equal 0? Where does x squared minus 16 over x plus 2 equal 0? What are we doing first on that? Every time we're just going to multiply by that denominator. When I do, aren't you just left with the numerator? Yeah. So you could really skip that step if you want. Let's go solve it. X squared, if I added that 16 over, careful, what's my x? Hey, Beck said, I'm not going to forget that plus or minus. Here's the deal. Do I have to worry about negative 4 in this situation? No, so you did the right thing, and that's a critical point, but in this situation, I don't have to put it on my number line. So that's where my f prime equals 0. Anytime my f prime would be undefined is like Evan said to us last week, when my denominator is 0. Anytime this denominator would be 0?
Negative 2.
Yeah. Do we have to worry about it? No. We don't, because again, it's not greater than 0. So I only am going to put one number. I only have one critical point in this case. I'm going to put that into my f prime to see what's going on with my function.
Wait, can you explain why there's only one group?
Oh, yeah. So do you agree we had plus or minus 4 or negative 2 as all of our candidates, if you will? Which of those fit this restraint of which of them are bigger than 0? Okay. Yep, love it. You guys, what number are we trying less than 4, but also greater than 0? 2 or 3 or 2.5 sounds good. Bigger than 4? Sure. We have to plug it into my f prime. If I plugged a 2 into my f prime, boop, here. 2 squared minus 16 on top. Negative something over 2 plus 2. Yeah, negative divided by positive. Negative. If f prime is negative, my function's decreasing. If I put a 6 in, 6 squared minus 16, positive or negative? Over 6 plus 2? Positive. Guys, what we got going on at 4? A min. And that's all we got to say. We're going to say a min at x is 4. Because why? Look at your graph. Let your chart talk you through it. Your f prime went from what to what? You know it. F prime changed from negative to positive. Let's take a peek. It says graph of f prime. It's important to remind ourselves. Here's f prime. We got f prime given to us. So maybe you're going like this, plus 0 minus. Which of the following is true about f, my function? From -1 to 1. What's my f prime here? Positive. If my f prime is positive, isn't my function doing that? Are they messing with your head because it's going down in the picture? They're doing that on purpose. But my f prime is positive. It's just approaching 0, but it's still positive. Well said. So is my function decreasing here? Nah. Is my function increasing between -2 and 0? Is my function increasing? At f prime, at -2, my f prime was positive. And then it's still increasing, but it's approaching 0. Would my function be increasing that whole time? I'm digging it. I'm digging B. Let's check our 1 to 2. Are they trying to mess with our head here? From 1 to 2. My f prime values are what? Negative. So they're negative. Yeah, they're approaching 0, but they're still negative. So my function is not increasing there. It's decreasing. At 0, do we have a min? What do we have at 0? If my f primes went from positive to negative values, what would I have there? A max. I agree. We had to have a max there. Silly answers. Ooh. F is not differentiable. My f is not differentiable at -1 and 1. What's f prime at this point, you guys? Oh, I don't know. There's no values. Let's say couldn't my f prime be 2 there? And my f prime is, in this case, -2 down here. So what would not be differentiable? F double prime would not be differentiable. If I asked you to take the slope now at -1, wouldn't that be f double prime? The slope of f prime would get me f double prime. F double prime is not differentiable there. But if I've got a slope value, that means my function was all good. So the answer will be B here. This guy says, hey, I gave you f prime. Where is my max? I gave you f prime. Can we when do maxes happen, you guys? When does a maximum happen on a function? When your
Increasing goes to decreasing.
f prime goes from positive to negative. That's what I like. F prime goes from positive to negative. And I'm writing that not because it's a multiple choice. You don't need to write that, but in your notes, you might want to do that. Here's what it looks like. Woo, whoop. Does not need to be accurate at all. Where would we look is the reason why I'd have you write this. And I'd also note, dude, that's a graph of f prime. This is an f prime graph. That's muy importante. Bless you. We said we have maximums when my f prime goes from positive to negative. Is that happening here? No, that's negative to positive. Here.
Yep.
Yes, here. No, negative to positive. You guys, we're looking for this 0 right there. On your notes, I would note that. I would put a little pimple right there and let yourself know that's where I'm looking for. Second trace 0. Let me see what you get. We're looking at this guy, 2013. This was 10 years ago. This is legit. They said, hey, here's this F prime. Note that it continues on. My gosh, it's so long. How many extrema does it have? Extrema is a really fancy word to say maxes and mins. How many maxes and mins does this graph have? Does the graph of F have? Well, maxes and mins are when my F prime changes signs. And maybe you let yourself know that. I'm looking for when my F prime changes signs. The only reason I gave us this space is so that we could sketch that graph. I'm going to try to sketch this one, see if it comes out a little better. We got 3 minus 2x minus x squared. And we got that times the sine of 2x minus 3. Did they give us a window? Yeah, you're going to want to go change your x min to -4 and your x max to 2. And when I sketch what my F prime looks like, is anyone a little concerned about this area over here? You're like, I'm not quite sure if that's going over the x-axis to see if it's changing signs. So here's what I suggest. Do you guys agree we're looking for the zeros? We're looking for these points. So do I need all of this y space above and below? I don't. So if I were you, I'd go back to your window. I'd change your y min to -1 and your y max to 1. Why am I doing that? Because it'll help me see this. It'll help me see, oh, snap. Over here, it actually goes above it. I'm going to use a different color so you guys can see. It actually goes above, below, above, below, above, below. And I couldn't see that very well when this was zoomed out. You guys, we just sketched a graph of F prime. You guys, this is a graph of F prime. How many times is it changing signs? Am I looking here? No, my F prime here is going from positive to positive. Am I looking here? That's 1. So if I were you on your notes, I'd be like this. 1. How many do you think we have? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, boom. So now we're looking at this 88. It says, okay, I gave you F prime again. You welcome. Where do we have a min? And you got to just picture, if here's a graph that has a min, if this function looks like this, here's my function. I've got a min here. What happens in calculus terms? What happens? F prime does what? Yes, exactly, Blake. F prime goes from negative to positive. So they gave us F prime. Can we go look at that on a graph? I'm going to go do a zoom 6. I'm just going to go back to a normal window. I'm going to go just say sine of x squared. I'm going to graph it. Whoa. There's no window. How gross, right, Ro? You're like, excuse me. So on this one, you're like, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys. There are going to be infinite times this graph goes from positive to negative, right? We have to use the answers to make our window. These are our potential solutions. These are all x values. How low do we want to make our x? Or negative. I feel like we should give it a little buffer, because if it's happening at 0, I want to give a little room. So maybe I'll go from x min of -1. How big do we want to go then?
3.
Sure. Graph it. You guys, again, I think a sketch of this on your page is so important. If you're a little concerned here, if this is crossing or not, I would go change that y min and my y max to -1 to 1. I'm going to go y min, -1, y max, 1. Just to clarify, does it look like it's actually crossing the x-axis there? Nah, I think we're good. So when I go to sketch this, I'm going to say, all right, it looks like this. And then it goes, woo, whoop. I shouldn't have gone like that. Woo, woo, whoop. You guys, you said a min is where your F prime goes from negative to positive. Is it important to note that's an F prime graph? Yeah. What are my F prime values? Here, 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 here. Positive, here, 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 here. Positive, 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 positive. Then what? So what do we have right here? A max. What do we have over here? a min. So you guys, we're looking for this 0 right here. We're looking for that one. And then I got one question for J-Bro. Then I think we're good. Anyone getting that value? Thanks, guys. It is that 2.507. That's where that's happening. Guys, we're going to go to this number 4. This is what J-Bro kind of brought up last week. Says, hey, here's G. How many extrema does it have? And is no calculator. Darn it. In order to figure this out, we got to go check out our G prime. What's my G prime, everybody? 4x cubed plus? Beautiful. You guys, those critical points happens when my G prime equals 0 or is undefined. Do you think my G prime is ever going to be undefined? Nah, we don't have any denominator. Let's go figure out where this equals 0. What are we taking out of all these? 4x squared. What's left? X plus 3. You guys, our critical points are where this equals 0. So we got to go set each of these equal to 0. When does 4x squared equal 0? When does x plus 3 equal 0? Some of you won't need to show this step, and that's fine. Others of you will, and that's fine. If you're like, man, what am I doing over here? I'd get x squared is 0. What's my critical point? 0 is one of them. And what's my other? -3. Those are the two numbers we got to put on a sign chart. I'm going to put -3 on the left because it's smaller and a 0 on the right. Those are x values. I'm going to plug them into the derivative to see what the function is doing. What do we want to try smaller than -3? -4. Between them? -2. Bigger?
2.
Love it. You guys, again, let's go throw it in the factored f prime. I'm going to go -4 right here. Boom and boom. J-Bro, do you know, can you anticipate what's going to happen over here or not going to happen? Okay. Okay, we're going to get there. Right here, does it matter what I plug in here? What's this always going to be? Because squaring anything. So honestly, I kind of do this. I'm like, I don't even have to worry about that. That's just going to turn into positive no matter what. What if I put in a -4 right here? Negative times a positive will be a negative. If f prime is negative, my function is decreasing. What about here, -2? A -2 here plus 3 is going to get me a +1. J-Bro, this is what I was saying. You wanted to say last week, like, hey, if we see it goes negative, can we go positive, negative, positive, negative? That's what he was asking. I was like, great call. Yeah, last week was a little easier. What happens when I plug in the 2 here? It goes positive again. Last week we didn't see anything, not change signs. They're going to do this to us. So it's not always going to change signs. Because look what this said. How many extrema does G have? Let me give you an example what's going on here. My function decreased, then it increased, then my slope was 0 again, and then it increased again. So what do I have here? A min. Do I have anything here? We don't, because my f prime went from positive to positive. It didn't change signs. So what's our answer on this one? It's just 1. They want you to get 2 critical points and say, boom, the answer's 2. Anticipating it's always going to change signs. It's not always going to. Okay, I want to bounce to the one right above it, and then we're done. They gave you a huge chart. Notice this is just part A of a free response question. So all of the chart might be used. Right now, it's not. Find the x-coordinate of the min. Justify. You guys, the justification, let's write it first. When does a minimum happen in calculus terms? A minimum of a function happens when f prime. Very good. So I'm going to write my justification first. F prime goes from negative to positive. I like to write that so that I know what I'm even looking for. Boom, you just got a point. Even if we didn't give a numerical answer, we just got my justification point. Got it. Now let's go say where that's happening. That's happening at, where does my f prime, look what you just wrote it, because look, they said here my function's f. So we said when f prime goes from negative to positive, said Fisher. Is there any x value that my f prime goes from negative to positive? Ooh, from negative, you're saying it goes from negative to 0 to positive when x is 1.
Why is it, what is this 0? Is that just like the, oh, yeah.
So in a minimum, if they're looking for a minimum, right, of my function f, my f prime actually could go from negative to 0 to positive at that minimum, right? I love it. So we're going to say at x is 1, and we're done.